guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to show you how I put together this wreath. Now I did originally film the process of putting this together, but unfortunately I've been having all sorts of problems with my camera, and the footage just wasn't really watchable. So I decided to give it another go, but this time, because obviously I'm going to end up with two wreaths, I've decided to give the one that I make today away on my channel. So at the end of the video, once I've made the wreath, I've also put together a little embellishment box, so I'll show you through that, and then I'll tell you what you need to do to be entered into the giveaway if you'd like to be. So this was the wreath that I made using one of the images from JMC Designs. I'll link her YouTube channel and her Etsy shop and all the rest of it down in the description box below. So this is the wreath that I'm going to be working on today. Now the original wreath was white with a natural coloured heart, but unfortunately I didn't have any of those left. I'd only got these ones. So what I've done is I've taken this wreath and I've just dry brushed the actual wreath part with some white gesso, and then I've changed out the ribbon because the ribbon on these ones is a bit cheap and nasty. So I've changed it out to the nice gold ribbon that's the same on the other one. In the meantime, I have been making, filling my tray again, and this time it's filled with all sorts of lovely Christmassy type goodies, and that's everything that I'm going to need to put this together. So what I'll do is, some bits are obviously pre-made, some little embellishments and things that I've already made, but I'll talk you through them as we go along. If there's any of them that you see that you think, oh, I'd really like to know how that's made, how she's made that, leave me a comment in the comments below, and I'll gladly do a short tutorial video on anything that anybody would like. So the first thing that I did when I was making this wreath was added a couple of these big snowflakes to the side. Now these are plastic glittery snowflakes just from the pound shop, obviously with the little eye to hang them, and all I did was cut the eyes off and hot glued them in place there. That is a little bit tricky. It's probably the trickiest part, is getting these to sort of glue into place and stay there. I did also on my other one, and I'll do it again on this one, I added a little tiny bit of white floral wire just in a few places to keep it sort of stuck in place if the glue were to fail, and you won't see it because it'll be hidden under all of the embellishments. So to start with, I just cut the little eyes off because obviously we don't want that bit, and because they're cheap, there are a few little bits here and there where it's sort of come out the mould funny, so I just trimmed those bits off as well. So you won't see an awful lot of it anyway, because it's mostly there as a grounding, as a base for our embellishments to all sit on. So all I'm going to do is, with my hot glue gun, I'm just going to put a nice big blob of hot glue and place it where I want it, and just let that set. And then I'm going to do the same on the bottom one, and then I'm going to put the floral wire on to keep it in place. So I will just pause the video just while I do this bit, because it is a little bit fiddly, and obviously I've got to wait for the glue just to cool down and set. Okay, so I have now managed to get those glued on. I've also got some pine boughs out of my little tray, and I have just inked, you probably can't see it on the camera, but I've just inked all around the edges of the pine boughs, and I'm going to glue those on. I have kept the ink out to one side because I might snip into these, so that they're not all sort of, in exactly the same direction. I might snip some bits off and place them in different places, and in order to do that and for it not to look out of place, I like to just sort of re-ink the raw edges where I've just cut. So I'm going to just start by, so last time I tried just to not overthink it too much, and just start popping the bits on. Now I do try not to glue it down too much, because I think if you just sort of glue the centre part of it, you tend to get a bit more sort of natural movement in that in the piece. Whereas if you glue it all totally flat, you can't sort of then sort of get lift pieces and move elements about. So yeah, I try just to sort of do that, glue that middle bit. So I've sort of cut a bit off there. I will just put a little bit of ink. You probably won't actually see any of that bit anyway, because I'm going to put it so that it's sort of sticking out that way. And the middle bit where I've just cut it and it all looks a bit sort of weird and rough will be hidden under the embellishments, under the flowers and things anyway, so it won't sort of matter too much. So I'm going to do the same again on this one. And I'm going to put that one there. There we go, like that. And we will put that one like that. Ooh. Get myself covered in glue strings already. So I'm just going to snip that one off again. And again, I'm just going to put a little bit of, I like that sort of darker green, so I'm going to pop that one just under slightly. Yeah. So again, this is just sort of creating a bit of a base for everything to sit on. So, you know, I don't want it to look too finished and too embellished. So I want it to look a bit like a Christmas tree. So that's the greenery in behind. I have got some other greenery, like these lovely ones here that it's a holly die cut, and then I've just put some of the red Nouveau drops on and left it dry overnight, so it's got the nice domed effect like the berries. And then I've got some of the flowers, my handmade flowers, so I'm going to pop a few of those on. It's slightly easier this time because obviously I've got the other one that I made sat off to one side, so I can sort of keep having a quick look, and it will be slightly different because you know, some things like this flower's slightly smaller than the one on the other wreath, so there will be bits that'll look slightly different, but overall it'll end up looking very similar to the other one that I made. And because it's like anything, isn't it? Once you've made it once, it just gives you a little bit more sort of confidence when you're doing it the next time. So all I'm doing is going through and popping pieces on, and where I've got that little, you can just about see a little piece of white floral wire there. So all I'm going to do is just pop something under there to cover it. So like a little piece of a holly leaf there, that looks quite cute. So another one. That one's slightly bigger. I wonder if that one would. Yeah. So it really is just a case of going through and so these little holly leaves, these are bits of holly leaves from where I've already used the other half, but I made these last Christmas, and I just used green cardstock, obviously, and a holly shaped die, and I cut the holly leaf shape. I shaped it on like a foam mat and put some veining and that into the leaf, inked all the edges so that you'd got a little bit of variation throughout the leaf, and then I painted them all with a coat of clear gloss, this stuff, the Anita's clear gloss, just with a paintbrush. I just squirted some of this out, painted over them with a paintbrush and left them to dry overnight, and it gave them that nice sort of glossy finish that you get on holly leaves. So I was really quite pleased with those. I've also got some of these little berry stems. I think these ones are from the range. So I'm going to pop a few of these in. Now these are wired, so don't use your best scissors to cut them, because obviously cutting stiff wire with your best scissors is never a good idea. But these scissors are not Tim Holtz. They look like the Tim Holtz ones, and they work just like the Tim Holtz ones. They are non-stick and they've got the serrated edge, but these were, I think, £3 from IKEA. So if you've got an IKEA in your area, or if you're, you know, going to IKEA for some furniture, they're definitely worth looking out for. They were in my IKEA. They were where all the wrapping paper and all that sort of stuff is. Were they on the gardens? They might have been on the garden stuff, those ones, actually. I've got another pair that, I got them from IKEA, and they're black-handled ones, and they're good paper scissors, but they're, again, non-stick, and they're like a Teflon coated, but these are brilliant. They'll cut anything. These will cut through really thick cardboard, they'll cut through wire, they'll cut through anything, and for £3, I just think they're really good value for money. So yeah, I picked a pair of those up last time to try, and if when I go back next time, I will pick up a spare pair to pop away in my drawer, so that when they go blunt, I've got another pair waiting in the wings. So I'm just gonna pop some more flowers on. I've also got these really lovely little, like dandelion clock head things that I made. And these were just made with a die cut that's like a pronged flower die cut. I just cut them out of it was a scrap of Hessian looking paper. I just cut them out of that. And then I've got a pot of, it's like foamy stuff that when you get electronics and things packaged, and it comes in, it's like a cross between polystyrene and foam. I've just grated it with, I bought a foot file from Pound Shop or somewhere. Not for my feet, obviously, but for my craft room. And I just grated it into a pot, and it's made this really lovely fine fluff, which is really nice for snow and things, but it's also really nice to give that sort of whimsical sort of look to plants and flower heads and things. So they do actually look like the little seed heads. So I'm going to pop a couple of those on, because I think these are super cute. Keep burning myself with the glue gun. I don't want it to end up too heavy down there, because obviously we've got the snowballs and the little dove to go down the bottom there. So I want to bring the flower cluster a bit sort of further up. So I've got these really lovely, these little red roses. So the roses are the one flower that I often will buy, because they're faffy to make, because it's so many layers. And for whatever reason, they seem to be the one that you can pick up cheaply in pound shops and things. So I tend not to buy them. And these ones, really pretty. They did these in the pound shop. I'm struggling to show you that one, but they did them in the pound shop last Christmas. So I think I bought about 3 packets of the things, because they were cheap and really, really pretty. So I used those on my original wreath as well. So let's put one of these here. I'll cut this. So with my holly leaves, to get the most out of them, I do tend to snip them in half. Rather than using the whole thing and hiding half of it, I tend to snip them in half and just sort of use the pointy end, because that's obviously the only bit that you really, bothered about seeing. So I'm going to put some of the holly leaves with the berries up the top there. Let's see, I've got some more of those ones. What else have we got? So we've also got the skeleton type leaves. So these again, it's just a die cut that's in my stash, and all I've done with these ones, I've cut them out on, these were just cut out of a scrap of craft card, but it doesn't really matter what you cut them out of because I've heat embossed them. So they've had 3 layers of Zig Queen's Gold embossing powder, which is it's my favourite. I got it in a second-hand in a pack. I bought a load of stuff from a car boot sale, hundreds and hundreds of dies and some embossing powders and embossing folders and other things, and this came in the pack, and I've only got a little bit left now, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm gonna have to get some more because I use it on absolutely everything. So I've done those ones, like the wheat sheaf type ones, and then I've done these ones as well. So I'm gonna pop some of those in, and again I tend to cut these down because you can use the top half. And obviously these are quite big leaves to have sticking out. You don't want it sticking all the way out there. So if you sort of cut it in half, then it's easier to place in your arrangement. So just pop that one there and grab my little silicone thing so I can press it down without burning my fingers. There we go. And then I think we'll have one of the little wheat ones. Start by cutting the stick off, the stem off, and see where we go from there. So I'm trying to stick some of these on before I stick my final flowers on, because obviously it'll be, I haven't got to try and squeeze them underneath the flowers and things. It'll just be a little bit easier because it's already on. So what you can do with these end ones on these ones is if you just gently around the edge on them, it gives you another leaf head that you can put on. And because it's a different shape, obviously, because it's the fatter sort of end of the leaf, it looks like 2 different dies when you sort of do it that way. So I'm all about getting the most out of my supplies, as I'm sure most people are. So if I can not waste something, if I can sort of use it in more ways than one, or if I can, like, you know, chop off half and use the other half somewhere else, then I try to do that. So I'm going to pop this little holly leaf in down here. It's looking really cute. I love floral clusters. I say it all the time, but that's because it's true. Right? It's one of the things I really, really love making. I like making the flowers, and I like actually sort of putting it together. I just enjoy that process. So these poinsettias are the ones that I've made. So if anybody's interested in a video on how I make my flowers, just let me know and I will gladly pop one up. I know that a few people have said they'd be interested in what I use to make my flowers. So I probably will do a little one on the Christmas poinsettias and sort of show you how I make those. I've also got these lovely, I think it's actually supposed to be bamboo, but I don't know, I think it's a nice, adds a little bit of something without it being too much. So, but it just sort of breaks up the greenery a little bit. Because it's nice to have all that greenery in the background, but at the same time, having a little bit of white just sort of lifts it slightly. So I do like to pop these in here and there. I'll pop another bit of that at the top there. So as you can see, I don't very often use things in their whole state. I do tend to sort of cut into things and snip them about a bit. That just seems to work for me. I think I'll put another couple of the berries because we've got 2 at that end, so it would be nice to have 2 sort of coming out at that end. And these wires are just a bit too long. Again, it just means that you've got to try and feed so much of it down into the arrangement that you end up either dislodging stuff, or it just, you know, you get to a big patch of hardened glue and it just won't go. So if you cut the wires a little bit short before you do it, it just makes it a little bit easier. So pop this one up here. There we go. Ooh. So, and I try not to sort of have them at exactly the same height. I think it looks better if they're slightly differing in height. It needs something just there, but we've got red and red, so I think probably a little cream rose would be the best thing for there. So if you're like me, I'm a bit of a messy crafter, and I'll chuck a bit of glue on and I'm not really thinking about it too much, and then you end up with glue strings everywhere. I learnt a really good trick, which was to not worry about it too much as you're going along, and then just go over it quickly with a heat tool. As long as you haven't got any lace or anything that would melt on your final project, just sort of whip over it once it's all sort of together with your heat tool, and it just melts all the strands away, and you don't end up with all of those glue strands everywhere then. So I'm really liking that. That's looking really pretty. I think I will just add a little bit more of this white in. Ooh, if I don't chuck it all over the floor first. Oh, excuse me, we'll pick it up. Right, so I'm going to put this in up here. Out, glue, hot glue. So I'll put a thing on this finger and then touch it with that one. And there's no winning with hot glue for me. Okay, so I've also got some other little embellishments in my pots here. So I've got these little candy canes. Now, again, I made these last Christmas for my Christmas cards last year. But the canes that you make them out of, because they're made out of Fimo, it just made tons and tons and tons, and so I chucked them all in a pot and thought that's fine. I'm sure I'll use them over the next few Christmases. So yeah, I've got all these really cute little Fimo candy canes that are lovely for sticking in things. I put loads on my Christmas cards, like I said last year, and I like putting them on little Christmas ornaments and things. They're nice to tuck in when you're doing anything with a floral cluster. It's nice to tuck the little candy canes here and there. Ooh. Try not to chuck them all over the place. Yeah, that one will go in there. So I like to have quirky little things sticking out of the flower clusters. I think it just adds to the fun of it. Rather than it just all being, you know, flowers and leaves, and which is very beautiful. But yeah, I like to pop the odd bit of quirkiness in here and there. Might probably do. Okay, and then I've also got these lovely mini fir cones. I got these from Hobbycraft the other day. Now, on the original wreath that I made, I'd put plastic ones that I'd got from the pound shop, and I just cut them in half and popped those on, and they're really cute. But these are just a little bit nicer, so I thought I'd use these on this project. So I'll just tuck a few of the little fir cones in here and there. And what I like about this sort of project is there's lots to look at. You know, you can sit and sort of pick out all the individual cute little elements, which is really nice. I'm just going to pop, I've got a gingerbread man. So again, this is one that I've made. It's just a little die cut. I put a little bit of paper tape on the back so that I could pop back in all his little icing bits, his buttons and his mouth and his little... So all I did was die cut it, popped all the little bits out, coloured them all in white with white gel pen, and then I've popped them all back in. Inked around the edges of him so that he looks like he's, you know, a toasty cooked little gingerbread man. And again, I made a few of those. I love making little embellishments like that. It's one of my favourite things to do. And often, if I'm not feeling very creative, if I'm not feeling very well, because it's unfortunately I've got a pain condition, so sometimes I'm just really not feeling like crafting, like creating. I just, I want to do something, but I just, everything hurts too much and I can't really think straight. So, but making these little things is really, really easy. You don't have to think about it too much because it's just a die cut and you just, pop the bits of the die cut back together. So I quite enjoy making those little bits. So the other thing that I've got is I bought these from the pound shop, and obviously it's supposed to be some sort of mistletoe thing. Bit horrible like that, but if you take the balls off, actually they're really lovely. I just pull them off and then you're left with these big, they look like big snowballs to me, and I think they're really cute. So you can cut them in half. I found on this project I didn't need to, but what I did need to do was hold them and let the glue set, because obviously I'm gluing polystyrene to the wicker wreath, and that's a little bit tricky. So I've got 3 or 4 of these to add on, so I will just pause the camera because I have got to just hold each one for a moment while the glue hardens. Once I've got the snowballs on, I'll come back to you. Okay, so they're on nice and secure now, and I did make a little start on putting some of the smaller ones in around, and obviously they're going to come a little bit further up the wreath, but the reason I put those on to start with is because I want to put my little sparkly dove on there, and I just wanted to fill the little crack there between the 2 bigger snowballs. So these are little, they're foam glittery doves, little 3D ones that I got from AliExpress. I'd been coveting the ones in the wedding section in Hobbycraft, but they're really expensive. They're about £6 or something for a tiny little bag. I didn't even really know what I wanted to use them for. They were really cute and I really wanted them. And then I found a big pack of, I don't know, 20, 30 of them for a couple of £2 on AliExpress. So I ordered those. And they are really, really super cute. So just gonna put that. Okay, had to just dash away there. My daughter came in a little bit upset. She had an altercation with somebody on a roundabout because they didn't want to give way when they should. So yeah, never mind, she's okay, she's home safe. So started off with my little snowballs, but what I want to do is put my little girl on, because I want to put some snowballs on her feet so it looks like she's standing in the snow. So this is Frosted Ruby from the latest JMC Designs digi stamp set, and as you can see I've coloured her all up in lovely sort of Christmassy reds and greens with the white fur trim, and I've just gone over the white fur trim with a bit of stickles so that it shines, and just put a little bit of glossy accent on the buttons and the owl's eyes and a little bit on her lips to make her lips look shiny. So there are a couple of things I want to do in order to put this where I want it. First of all, I want to shape it so it doesn't look flat. So in order to do that, I've just got a piece of foam and my image, and I want something to shape it with. So I use these. These ones are just from the pound shop, and they are nail dotting tools, but they are brilliant for shaping flowers and images like this. So these go up to, that's the biggest size tip on these ones, but you can also get from baking shops, or I got mine on AliExpress and they were about £2.5, £3, something like that. I got these ones, so obviously they go up to a much bigger diameter on the stylus end, and these are actually for fondant icing. Now obviously I don't use mine for cooking, these are just for in my craft room, and for a couple of £1, you've got, I think it was probably about £3-4 for the whole lot, but for that I've got 8 different styluses and various different sizes. Now you probably could just get that set and it would do you. The reason that I went for these was A, they were only £1 in the pound shop, and B, I do like the tiny ends for doing veining and things on leaves. It's good for being able to score the veins into leaves with the very tiny heads on the nail dotting tools. So that's why I ended up buying both. But these are really good for shaping things like this, because you've got a nice big stylus tip to get you started, whereas this one you could still do it with that tip. It's just going to take you a bit longer, so I tend to use a combination of all of them, to be honest. So I'll keep one of each now. I should shut my drawers. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to start with a nice big chunky end, and I'm just going to start rolling, particularly around the edges, around the image. And all this is doing is it's breaking up the fibres and stretching the paper a little bit, and that will start to give some shape to the image. So I'm sorry if my camera moves. My camera is mounted on my desk, so obviously if I do anything, if I pounce ink or if I do things like this, it sometimes can move my camera a little bit. And my autofocus is a bit funny on this phone, so it does autofocus quite a lot, but there's just nothing I can do about it. I've tried everything. I tried using another phone, but my old phone, which was a Samsung, which had got a slightly better camera on it actually for video. This is a brilliant camera for stills, but not quite so good for video. But unfortunately, my old one, it just won't accept a memory card. I've tried loads of different ones. I've tried formatting them. I've tried all sorts, and it just wouldn't take the memory card. So, and because it's only an 8GB camera phone, there's just not enough storage on it to film a full video. Whereas this, I've been able to put a 128GB memory card into this one, so I can film to my heart's content on this one. But it's just not quite as good quality as the other one. But hey ho, I'm only just starting out, so you know, you can't expect to have all the kit from the beginning, can you? So as you can see, all I'm doing is just adding a little bit of shape to her. I'm dropping her on the floor, picking her back up again. There we go. So it's, yeah, just adding a little bit of shape, adding that sort of almost 3D effect, and then I'm going to add her onto here. Now, to make her sort of glue down a bit better, I want to just put something on the back to use as a bit of an anchor point for her. Now on my one, I used my good old-fashioned favourite cat food packaging, but as I'm going to give this one away, I'm going to go and find a little bit of foam core board, which will just look a little bit nicer from the back. So as you can see, I've cut a piece of foam core board and stuck that to the back, and then I'm going to use that to give her a little bit of height, and it's just a bit of a firmer surface to stick down to the wreath. Now again, this is just going to take a few moments because my glue gun gets really hot. It's really good, and I really like it. It's got a lovely fine nozzle and all the rest of it, but it does get super hot, and it just takes that little bit longer for the glue to cool down and set. So I will just pause again for a moment while I just glue this onto the wreath, and then I'll come back to you. Okay, so she's on. It's still just a little bit warm, but I think it's cool enough that I can carry on. So to stick these smaller glue snowballs on, all I'm doing is putting a bit of the hot glue, and then with my little tub of snowballs, I'm just taking them out one at a time and just popping them on wherever I can see wet glue. Now these little tiny ones were from the range, I think, and I bought these this Christmas, so they are available in the range this year. And again, they're quite nice because they're quite little, so that's nice for this sort of project and for card makers, because quite often with the 3-dimensional stuff, it's often too big for cards unless you make, you know, quite big cards. It's often a bit on the big side, but these are quite cute. There's some really quite little ones in amongst it all. So I sort of thought I'd get lots of use out of these. It was an enormous, great big bag. I think it was only £1 or £2. So I thought that was quite good value, really. So as you can see, all I'm doing is going round where the hot glue is and just popping in snowballs. So like I say, I wanted it to look like she was stood in the snow, and playing in the snow, making heaps of snowballs. And then I'm just going to sort of look at, because obviously this is going to be hung, so it's worth sort of picking it up every now and again and sort of having a look at how it will be when you've finished it and you've got it hung. If you do it all while it's down on the flat, you might then go to pick it up and, like I've just done there, realise that, you know, it looks lovely all to that side, but, you know, just there it could have done with a few snowballs that it didn't have. So they're now on. So on the home straight now. So the only other bits that I'm going to add to this are some embellishments. So I've got these lovely glittery, they're like a chipboard, a thin balsa wood type thing covered in glitter, and these were from the works. There was 3 for £1. They've got them in lots of different colours. They've got a really nice coppery colour, a goldy colour, a silver, and the red that I've seen. But they, you know, possibly do other colours as well. So all I'm going to do is pop that onto the heart in the middle. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue here and there, and then I'm going to pop that down onto the heart like that. Oh, super cute, super cute. And then I've got this red bow. Now obviously I've got a gold bow on here already, which I didn't actually do on my other one. I've strung this one slightly different. I've strung it more like the bow that was on the on it originally. Now the thing, oops, just wobble the camera. If I put it there, the tails are going to cover up a lot of the Merry Christmas. If I put it up here, it's going to look silly because you've already got the gold bow. So, wonder if, try trimming. Now these are just cheap little velvet bows that, again, you get them in pound shops and the Range, places like that at Christmas. I wonder if we actually get rid of the tails on that one. Let's try that. Take the tails out and just have the bow. And pop that. Probably should have put the bow on first and then the Merry Christmas, because I could have put the Merry Christmas a little bit lower, but never mind. It's like with anything, you've just got to keep playing with it until you're happy. And eventually it'll all come together and you'll be pleased with the way it looks. So all I'm doing is, these come with like a little tinsel tie around the middle. So all I'm doing is just using that to tie it round the bow that's already in place. And then I'm just going to pull that up and over so it looks like a double bow. So you've got the gold bow behind, and then you've got the pretty little red velvet one. And then I've got some snowflake elements. So this wooden one, I think I got it from Sainsbury's last year in the sale after Christmas. They've been little craft card boxes with little clear lids. They've got all sorts. I've got some stars and I've got some reindeers and all sorts. So I'm going to put that in the middle. And then this one I've cut. Now I think I do know that this is a Spellbinders one because it's the goldy colour, and I think they're the Spellbinders dies. The actual dies, that sort of coppery gold colour, so I think that means it's a Spellbinders one. But any snowflake die will do. I've got hundreds of the things. And then a little snowflake gem. Now this came from the works this Christmas. I think it's a pack of, I don't know, 20 or so. I think they were £1. So one of those in the centre there. And I think that's it. think that's everything. So there we go. That's the Christmas wreath. I hope you enjoyed watching me make that. Now, as I said at the beginning of the video, because obviously this is a second time round and hopefully the camera's actually recorded it better this time, it means that obviously I've now got two of them. So I'd like to give this one away if there's anybody that actually wants it. But I thought to send with it, I thought I'd make a little Christmas embellishment box and send some bought embellishments, but also some of the ones that I've made. So this is the embellishment box that I've made. As you can see, I've decorated the top because why not? And all I've done is I've layered up a piece of Christmas patterned paper with some of this really pretty sort of voily type trim with the gold edge underneath it, some flowers, some leaves, little gold bits there, some of the little handmade candy canes, some of the little fir cones, some gingerbread stickers, a piece of ephemera, another one of those Merry Christmases, and that's in that sort of coppery bronzy gold colour, which is really pretty, and a doily die cut that I cut, and a little bit of the greenery with the Nouveau drops on it. So that's the outside of the box. On the inside, if I open it up, it's got, in this little one, we've got some Christmassy coloured eyelash trims, so white, red and gold eyelash trim. And there's also 2 cards of Christmas coloured baker's twine, so the green and white, red and white and gold and white. And then you've got red and green, that one's a white and silver, and a green, red and white baker's twine. In this little section here, we've got some little Happy Christmas and Merry Christmas, like a little 3D foam sticker that you can use on your projects. Some of those little gingerbread men that I made. Some of the nice star wooden elements from Sainsbury's. I also made some paper clay little cherubs, all different shaped cherubs, and I've painted them, and then I've just given them a dry brush with some gold paint. So there's a few of those. There's also these acrylic flowers, like a really pretty creamy coloured acrylic flower with a gem in the centre. Some of my handmade flowers, so this pretty little creamy coloured one with a little creamy inside and a pearl and the little leaves, and then this one is like a little lotusy type flower which is white with a little white and gunmetal coloured pearl centre. Some of the cream roses that you get from Ali. Then if I clip that one, it's a magic box, you turn it over, and on this one I've just put a little piece of Christmas pattern paper with just my information on the bottom there. And then if we open up this side, we've got some of the holly leaves that I made last Christmas. We've got some wired berry stems, some of those lovely little fir cones, and then some of the poinsettias that I made. So a few of the big ones and some of the smaller ones. There's also some of these really cute little shaker stickers. There is some of these are really lovely. I used loads of these last Christmas. The little acrylic like flatbacks, like little snowflakes, pearly coloured snowflakes. I used tons of those last Christmas. Some of the cute little sparkly doves, and some of the candy canes that I made. So that's the embellishment box that I have put together. So as I say, I'd like to give this away with the wreath to somebody, if anybody's interested in having them, obviously. I'm going to leave it open until the 24th of October. That's my birthday. So I'm going to pick a winner on the 24th of October. All you need to do to have a chance at winning is to leave me a comment in the comment section below, like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate that. As you know, I've only just started my channel, so obviously I'm trying to sort of build it up a little bit and try and get my name out there a little bit. So I thought it might help with that as well. So like I say, if you fancy having a go, just do those few things. I will leave the information in the description box below. I'll also leave a link to Julia's shop and her YouTube, where you can go over and get these gorgeous images. I know it's been a bit of a long video, but obviously, you know, that's just the process of putting it all together. I really appreciate anybody that's sort of started from the beginning and stayed with me to the end. I appreciate everybody that's subscribed to my channel. If you're not already subscribed, I really would appreciate it. And I just wanted to thank everybody that's, you know, supported me so far, because it's been a bit bumpy with all the problems with my camera and whatnot, but I'm enjoying it so far. So thanks ever so much for being with me today, and I hope to see you all again soon. Bye.